Hello everyone, my name is Lakshmi Priya. In the last session, we are done with the fundamental rights. In today's session, we'll start with a new chapter of Laxmikanth, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. Article 36 to 51 under Part 5 of the Indian Constitution, it deals with the Directive Principles of State Policy. Let us see the features of the Directive Principles. The phrase Directive Principles of State Policy denotes the ideals of the state should keep in mind while formulating the policies and enacting laws. See, the phrase Dpsp, it denotes state should keep in mind while formulating the policies and laws. Next, according to Article 36, the term state in a Part 5 has the same meaning as in a Part 3. Okay, in Part 3, we have seen the definition of state in Article 12, right? The same definition is included in Article 36 of Dpsps. Okay, that is, it includes legislative and executive organs of central and state governments, all local authorities, and all other public authorities in a country. Okay, next. The Directive Principles resemble the instrument of instructions enumerated in the Government of India Act of 1935. Okay, instrument of instructions which are included in the Government of India Act of 1935. Dpsps resemble them. Okay. Next, in the words of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the Directive Principles are like the instrument of instructions which are issued to the Governor General and to the governors of the colonies of India by the British government under Government of India Act of 1935. Okay, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said that the Dpsps are like the instrument of instructions which were issued to the Governor General and governors of the colonies of India by British government under GOI of 1935. Next, the Directive Principles constitute a very comprehensive economic, social and political program in the modern democratic state. Okay, Dpsps constitute economic, social and political programs in a modern democratic state. They aim at realizing the high ideals of justice, liberty, equality and fraternity as outlined in the preamble. Earlier we have seen the ideals of justice, liberty, equality and fraternity in the preamble of our constitution. Same thing, even Dpsps aim at realizing the ideals of justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. Next. The Directive Principles are non-justiciable in nature, that is, they are not legally enforceable by the courts. See, earlier FR are enforceable by courts, but in case of Dpsps, they are non-justiciable in nature, that is, they are not legally enforceable by any courts. Okay. Next, the Directive Principles, though non-justiciable in nature, helps the court in examining and determining the constitutional validity of the law. Okay, though they are non-justiciable in nature, they help the courts in examining and determining the constitutional validity of the law. Next, Supreme Court has ruled many a times that in determining the constitutionality of any law, if the court finds that the law in question seeks to give effect to the Directive Principles, it may consider such law to be reasonable in relation to Article 14 and or Article 19 and thus save such laws from unconstitutionality. See, Supreme Court has ruled the constitutionality of law. That is, if Supreme Court finds that law affects the Dpsp, if any of the law affects the Dpsp, it is considered to be a reasonable in the relation of Article 14 and under Article 19, and it makes the law constitutional. Next. Classification of Directive Principles. The Constitution does not contain any classification of Directive Principles. However, on the basis of the content and direction, they can be classified into three broad categories. See, Constitution, it doesn't mention any classification of Dpsps, but on the basis of content and direction, they are divided into three categories. They are socialistic, Gandhian and liberal intellectual. Let us see one by one. Socialistic principles. These principles reflect the ideology of socialism. They lay down the framework for a democratic socialistic state aimed at providing social and economic justice. Okay. Socialistic principles, they mainly reflect the ideology of socialism, and they set the path towards the welfare state. Okay. Okay, socialistic principles mainly include the articles 38, 39, 39A, 41, 42, 43, 43A, and 47. Okay, all these articles are included in the socialistic principles. Now let us see one by one in detail. First, Article 38. Article 38 says to promote the welfare of the people by securing a social order permitted by social, economic, and political justice, and to minimize the inequalities in income, status, facilities, and opportunities. Okay, Article 38 says that to promote the welfare of the people by securing a social order through social, economic, and political justice, and also to minimize the inequalities in income, status, facilities, and opportunities. Next, Article 39 says to secure the right to adequate means of livelihood for all citizens. Okay, the right to adequate means of livelihood for all citizens. The equitable distribution of material resources of a community for a common good. Okay, next, prevention of concentration of wealth and means of production. To prevent the concentration of wealth and means of production. Next, equal pay for equal work for men and women. Okay, equal pay for both men and women for equal work. Next, the preservation of health and strength of workers and children against forcible abuse. Okay, next, opportunities for healthy development of children. All these are under Article 39. Next, to promote the equal justice and to provide free legal aid to the poor. This is included under Article 39A. Article 39A, it says that to promote equal justice and to provide free legal aid to the poor. Next, Article 41 says to secure the right to work, to education, and to public assistance in cases of unemployment, old age, sickness, and disablement. Okay. Article 41 says to secure the right to work, to education, and to public assistance in case of unemployment, old age, sickness, and disablement. Next, to make provisions for just and human conditions of work and maternity relief. Article 42 says that to make provision for just and human conditions of work and maternity relief. Next, Article 43 says to secure a living wage, a decent standard of life, and social and cultural opportunities for all workers. Next, Article 43A says to take steps to secure the participation of workers in the management of industries. Okay, to take steps to secure the participation of workers in the management of industries. Next, Article 47 says to raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living of people and to improve the public health. Article 47 talks about the level of nutrition, raising the level of nutrition and standard of living of people and to improve the public health. Next, let us see the Gandhian Principles. First, we have seen the socialistic principles, next Gandhian principles, and after Gandhian principles, we'll see about the liberal intellectual principles. Okay. Now, second is Gandhian principles. These principles are based on Gandhian ideology. They represent the program of reconstruction enunciation by Gandhi during the national movement. In order to fulfill the dreams of Gandhi, some of his ideas were included as a directive principles. Let us see what are they. Under Article 40, it says to organize the village panchayats and endow them with the necessary powers and authority to enable them to function as the units of social government. See, Article 40 says to organize the village panchayats. It talks about the organization of village panchayats, to endow them with the necessary powers and authority to enable them to function as the units of self-government. Next, Article 43, to promote the cottage industries as an individual or cooperation basis in the rural areas. Okay, it talks about the cottage industries on the individual or cooperation basis in rural areas. Okay. Next, to promote the voluntary formation, autonomous functioning and democratic control and professional management of cooperative societies. Okay, 43b, Article 43b says that to promote the voluntary formation, autonomous functioning and democratic control and professional management of cooperative societies. Next, to promote the educational and economic interest of SCs, STs and other weaker sections of the society and to protect them from social injustice and exploitation. This was included in the Article 46 under Gandhian Principles. Okay. Next, to prohibit the consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs which are injurious to health. Okay, Article 47 talks about the prohibition of consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs which are injurious to health. Next, to prohibit the slaughter of cows, calves and other milch and draught cattle and to improve their breed. Okay, Article 48 talks about prohibition of the slaughter of cows, calves and other milch and draught cattle to improve their breeds. Okay, that means it prohibits okay, that means to not harm cows, calves and other cattle so that their number is increased. Next, liberal intellectual principle. The principles included in this category represent the ideology of liberalism. Let us see what are they. Article 44, to secure all citizens a uniform civil code throughout the country. Okay, Article 44 talks about the uniform civil code to all the citizens throughout the country. Next, Article 45 says that to provide early childhood care and education to all children until they complete the age of 6 years. Okay, until the age of 6 years, to provide education and childhood care to all children. Next, to organize agriculture and animal husbandry on modern and scientific lines. Article 48 talks about the organization of agriculture and animal husbandry. Okay, next, to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife. Article 48 talks about the improvement of environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife. Next, Article 49, it says to protect the monuments, places and other objects of artists and historic interest which are declared to be a national importance. Okay, Article 49 talks about the protection of monuments, places and objects which are of national importance. Okay, next, Article 50, to separate the judiciary from executive in the public service of the state. Article 50 talks about the separation of judiciary from the executive in the public services of the state. Next, Article 51, to promote the international peace and security and maintain just and honorable relations between nations, to foster respect for international laws, treaty obligations and to encourage settlement in international disputes by arbitration. See, Article 51 talks about the international peace, international laws and also to encourage the settlement of international disputes by arbitration. Okay, all these are included in the liberal intellectual principle. Next, new directive principles. The 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, it added four Dpsps. Okay, let us see what are they. Article 39, to secure opportunities for healthy development of children. We have seen this Article 39 in Socialistic Principle. Okay, Socialistic Principle. Next, Article 39A, to promote the equal justice and to provide free legal aid to the poor. This was also seen in the Socialistic. Next, to take steps to secure the participation of workers in the management of industries. Article 43A. Again, this also we have seen in the Socialistic Principles. Next, Article 48A, to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife. Article 48A, we have seen this in Liberal Intellectual Principles, right? So, Article 39, Article 39A, Article 43A and Article 48A. All these articles were included by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Okay. Next. The 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978 added one more Dpsps, which requires the state to minimize the inequalities in income, status, facilities and opportunities. Article 38A. Sorry, Article 38. Article 38, again we have seen this in Socialistic Principles, right? So this Article 38 was added in by the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978. It says that state to minimize the inequalities in income, status, facilities and opportunities. Next, 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002 changed the subject matter of Article 45 and made the elementary education a fundamental right under Article 21A. See, what is Article 45? Article 45 is to provide the early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 6 years, right? This Article 45 was changed. Okay, this Article 45 was changed and made the elementary education a fundamental right. Okay, under Article 21A, fundamental right, by the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002. Okay, next, the amended directive requires a state to provide early childhood care and education for all children until the age they have completed. That is Article 45. Okay, this Article 45 was changed to the elementary education of fundamental right under Article 21A. Next. Next, 97th Amendment Act of 2011 added a new Dpsp related to cooperative societies. Cooperative societies, that is Article 43B. We have seen this in Gandhian Principle, right? See, it talks about the state to promote a voluntary formation, autonomous functioning, democratic control and professional management of cooperative societies. Okay. Next. Conflict between the fundamental rights and Dpsps. Let us see the conflict between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. In Champakam Dorarajan case of 1951, Supreme Court ruled that in case of any conflict between fundamental rights and Dpsps, the former would prevail. First, what is Champakam Dorarajan case? See, in 1927, the province of Madras has issued a communal geo. Okay, it issued a communal geo. This geo talks about the reservation of seats regarding the admission of students to the engineering and medical colleges. Okay, reservation of seats in engineering and medical colleges. Here Srimati Champakam Dorarajan, she came to know that she would not admitted to the college as she belongs to the Brahmin community. Okay, so she made an application for High Court of Madras for the breach of her fundamental rights under Article 226. Okay, that is the background of this case. In this case, Supreme Court said that if there is any conflict between fundamental rights and DPSPs, the former would prevail. That is, fundamental rights will be in the upper hand. Okay, it declared that DPSPs have to conform to and run as subsidiary to the fundamental rights. Okay, fundamental rights are given the priority. Next, the Parliament reacted to the Supreme Court's judgment in Golaknath case by enacting the 24th Amendment Act of 1971 and 25th Amendment Act of 1971. The 24th Amendment Act declared that Parliament has the power to abridge or take away any fundamental rights by enacting the Constitutional Amendment Acts. See, in Golaknath case, there were two acts, 24th Amendment Act and 25th Amendment Act. 24th Amendment Act declared that Parliament has the power to abridge or change or take away any fundamental rights by enacting the Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay. 25th. See, 25th Amendment Act inserted a new Article 31C, which contains two provisions. What are they? See, no law which seeks to implement the Socialistic Directive Principles specified in Article 39B and 39C shall be void on ground of contravention of the fundamental rights. Okay, no law which seeks to implement the Socialistic Directive Principles specified in 39B and 39C shall be void on the ground of contravention of the fundamental rights conferred by the Article 14 and Article 19 or Article 31. See, in 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, we have seen that Parliament has the power to abridge or take away any fundamental rights. Right? In 25th Constitutional Amendment Act, it says no law shall be void on the contravention of fundamental rights if it seeks to implement the Socialistic Directive Principles specified in 39B and Article 39C. Okay. Next, no law containing a declaration for giving effect to such policy shall be questioned in any court or ground that it does not give effect to such policy. Okay. No law shall be questioned in any court that doesn't give effect to such policy. If there is no effect to such policy, then that law cannot be questioned in any court. Next, in Keshavananda Bharati case, Supreme Court declared the above second provision of Article 31C as unconstitutional and invalid on the ground that judicial review is a basic feature of the Constitution, hence cannot be taken away. Okay. See, Article 31C Clause 2 says that no law shall be questioned in any court if it does not affect the policy, right? This was declared void. Okay, this was declared invalid and unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in Keshavananda Bharati case. Okay. Next, however, the above first provision of Article 31C was held to be constitutional and valid. The first provision of Article 31C was declared constitutional and valid by the Supreme Court. Next, the 42nd Amendment Act of 1976 extended the scope of first provision of Article 30C by including within the protection of any law to implement any DPSPs and not merely those specified in Article 39B and C. See, again 42nd Amendment Act, it extended the scope of Article 31C by including within the protection of any law. Earlier Article 31C, it talked about only the laws which are specified in Article 39B and C, right? Here in 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, it said not only the laws which are specified in Article 39B and 39C, but also protection of any law. Okay, it includes the protection of any law. Okay, this was included by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Next. Again, this extension was declared as unconstitutional and invalid by the Supreme Court in Minerva Mills case of 1980. Okay, in Minerva Mills case, the Supreme Court also held that Indian Constitution is founded on the bedrock of balance between the fundamental rights and DPSPs. Okay, bedrock of balance between fundamental rights and DPSPs. This was said by Supreme Court in Minerva Mills case. Next, the harmony and balance between the two is an essential feature of the basic structure of the Constitution. Okay, the harmony and balance between fundamental rights and Dpsps is an essential feature of basic structure of constitution. Therefore, the present position is that fundamental rights enjoy supremacy over Dpsps. That is, fundamental rights are given more power than Dpsps. Okay. Next, directives outside part 4. Apart from the directives included in part 4, there are some other directives contained in other parts of the constitution. They are claims of SCs and STs to the services. The claims of members of SCs and STs shall be taken into consideration consistently with the maintenance of efficiency of administration in making of appointments to services post in connection with the affairs of union or state. This was included in Article 335 in part 16. Okay, Article 335 under part 16, it says that members of SCs and STs shall be taken into consideration consistently with the maintenance of efficiency and administration and making the appointments to services, posts and connections with affairs to the union as well as state. Okay, next, instruction in mother tongue. It shall be endeavour of every state and every local authority within the state to provide adequate facilities for instructions in mother tongue at the primary state of education to children belonging to linguistic minority groups. Okay. At every primary stage of education to the children belonging to linguistic minority state, they have to provide the adequate facilities for the instruction in their mother tongue. Okay, this was included by the Article 350A. This was included in Article 350A of Part 17. Next, development of Hindi language. It shall be the duty of Union to promote the spread of Hindi language and to develop it so that it may serve as a medium of expression for all the elements of a composite culture of India. Okay, Article 351 in Part 17. Article 351 in Part 17, it talks about the duty of the Union to promote the spread of Hindi language. Okay, next. Okay, this is just a glance of Dpsps. Okay, all the articles from 36 to 51. Let us see one by one. Article 36, it talks about the definition of the state. Article 37, it talks about the application of principles contained in this part. Okay, it talks about the applications of the principles. Next, Article 38, it talks about the state to secure a social order for the promotion of welfare of the people. See, this was included under Socialistic Principles, right? This was included in 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978. Next, Article 39, it talks about the certain principles of policies to be followed by the state. Okay, Article 39 also was included under Socialistic Principle and was included in by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Okay, next, 39A, equal justice and free legal aid. 39A talks about the equal justice and free legal aid. Again, this was also included in the Socialistic Principle, included in the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Next, 40. Article 40 talks about the organization of village panchayats. This is a Gandhian principle, right? Organization of village panchayats was under the Gandhian Principles. Next, 41. Article 41. Right to work, to educate and to public assistance in certain cases. Okay, Article 41 talks about the right to work, to educate and to public assistance in certain cases. Next, Article 42. Provision for just and human conditions of work and maternity relief. Article 42 talks about the human conditions of work and maternity relief. This was included in the Socialistic Principle, right? Next, Article 43, living wages etc. for workers. This was also included in the Socialistic Principle. Next, Article 43A, participation of workers in the management of industries. This was also included in the Socialistic Principle by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Next, 43B, promotion of cooperative societies. This was included in the Gandhian Principle. Okay, Gandhian Principle by the 97th Constitutional Amendment Act. Next, 44, Uniform Civil Code for Citizens. Article 44 talks about the Uniform Civil Code for Citizens. This was included in the liberal intellectual principles. Right? Next, Article 45, Provisions for early childhood care and education to children below the age of 6 years. This was changed to the right to elementary education under Article 21A of Fundamental Rights by the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002. Next, Article 46, Promotion of Education and Economic Interests of Scheduled Castes, Scheduled Tribes and other weaker sections. This was included in the Gandhian Principle. Okay. Next, Article 47, Duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and standard of living and to promote public health. Again, this was included in Gandhian Principle. Okay, next, Organization of Article 48, Organization of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry. Article 48 also was included by the Gandhian Principle as well as liberal intellectual principle. Next, 48A, Protection and Improvement of Environment and Safeguarding Forests and Wildlife. 48A was included by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Right? This was included in the liberal intellectual principles. Next, Article 49, Protection of Monuments and Places and Objects of National Importance. Article 49 was included in the liberal intellectual principles. Next, Article 50, Separation of Judiciary from Executive. This was also included in the liberal intellectual principles. Next, Article 51 is the Promotion of International Peace and Security. This was also included in the liberal intellectual principles. Okay, with this we are done with the Directive Principles of State Policy. In the next class, we'll start with the fundamental duties. Thank you.